Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. I hope you're keeping safe and I hope you're keeping sane. I hope you're having a nice build up to Christmas. You're keeping well with your families, you're keeping gamble free, and if you're in tier 3, hope you're managing to stay in touch with loved ones. And if you're in tier 2, I hope you haven't put on too much weight from those substantial meals that you've invariably been having. I haven't posted a video for a few days, and the reason is this. It's something I've mentioned before. I generally only post videos when I've got something either I want to talk about, something I've thought of that I think could be useful to people, or in today's instance, when something actually comes up on the news that's related to gambling and that I think it's important that we discuss. I saw in the news yesterday that the government have now legislated that as of, I believe it's April next year, people under the age of 18 will no longer be able to play the National Lottery. In the UK, most forms of gambling are restricted to people solely over the age of 18. However, since its advent in the 90s, the National Lottery has been available to 16 and 17-year-olds as well. So what do I think of this new legislation? Well, firstly, I must say it can't be a bad thing. Restricting yet another form of gambling solely to people over the age of 18 can't be a bad thing or have any negative impact. However, I do believe that it's really only scratching the surface, and it's going to go only a very, very small way to addressing gambling in underage people in the UK and gambling problems in underage people. The National Lottery is, by its nature, a very slow form of gambling. You buy yourself a ticket on the Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, whenever you buy it, and then you wait for the once-a-week draw. I know there's other draws, but if we just stick with the main lottery, wait for the once-a-week draw, and then you either win or you lose. There is no chasing your losses. If you lose in the lottery, you have to wait for the next draw. There's no repetitive gambling, which is the main problem with things like FOBTs or online slots, online casinos, roulette, things like that, where if you lose your bet, you have to, you can instantly rebet, and normally within seconds you get another result. Now, this generation, more than so than any other generation, my own included, have become used to a lifestyle and been mentally conditioned to a lifestyle of instant return, instant gratification, and instant results. You only need to look at social media, and when someone posts something on, say, Instagram or Facebook, I don't know if young people still use Facebook, but they post to a social media platform and they almost instantly expect to get some recognition, some acknowledgement, some accreditation, some confirmation from their peers and from the people who follow them and the people who they follow, be that in the form of likes or shares or little emojis or comments or positive affirmation. Even outside of that, if you order something online, you expect to receive it the next day. Everything has sped up, and we're not willing to necessarily wait so much for a result from our actions, or from a confirmation, or from a dopamine hit in effect. It's the reason that sports betting has gone from who's going to win the match to who's going to get the next corner, who's going to score the next goal, who's going to be the next player booked. Because it speeds up the process from placing the bet to receiving the reward. And this is very reflective in today's society as a whole, and this is what I believe makes certain forms of gambling particularly dangerous to young people. They can get an instant result, an instant positive or negative, but either way, an instant hit from gambling, and they can get that time after time after time. In the example of slots, you can do that every couple of seconds. You can get a win or a loss, but either way, it's going to give you that dopamine injection. It's going to give you that buzz, that suspense, that anticipation, and that is what gamblers are effectively addicted to. It's the suspense, it's the anticipation. This is why sometimes if you gamble for a short period of time and you win and you get a good result, that you feel unfulfilled, you feel like it's an anticlimax. And the reason being is because you're not addicted to the wins. What you're addicted to is the anticipation of whether you will win or lose. That's what gives you the dopamine fix. And that's ultimately what we become conditioned to need and conditioned to crave. And that's what builds up your gambling urges. So when we have a generation who are already conditioned through other means to be addicted or programmed to expect an instant result or to crave instant gratification, instant accreditation, instant recognition for something, then it only takes them to try gambling, to maybe try it in what they believe to be a relatively low stakes sense, for it to form the basis of a potential future problem. And I do believe that the problem of underage gambling is going to be one of the addictions that we see the most problems with in the coming years. Less young people nowadays are drinking, less young people nowadays are smoking. I believe less young people are using recreational drugs, although it's not a circle I mix in anymore, so I don't know. But either way, they are mainly through conditioning and through the way the modern world works, they are becoming addicted to recognition and to dopamine off the back of positive affirmation. And if you take someone who maybe is struggling, a young person, say at school, who's not one of the popular kids, maybe someone who's being bullied, someone who doesn't have a lot of friends, doesn't have a particularly strong support network around them, they're not going to be the ones posting endless selfies onto Instagram to get that dopamine fix. They will be looking for that dopamine fix in other ways. And gambling, by its nature, unfortunately offers that in spades. You don't need to do anything of any notable note. You can just literally sign on or go into the bookies or go onto online casinos or get your phone out or do whatever. And within seconds, you can be getting wave after wave of dopamine and of acknowledgement and of acceptance from online gambling or from gambling in bookies or fruit machines or whatever. We are one of the only countries in the world, and I think we're certainly the only country in Europe, that actually still allows young people to gamble in one format or the other. We have fruit machines in every seaside arcade that kids of basically any age can play. Granted, they are lower stake, lower jackpot versions of the ones you'll find in pubs and casinos or whatever, but it is still comparatively a high-risk form of gambling to a lot of young people, and this is bizarre that we still allow this. And this is why, although I applaud the government for trying to take some steps to address the issue of underage gambling in the UK, there are so many forms of gambling which I believe are far more dangerous to young people than the National Lottery. Fruit machines in seaside arcades should be banned. It's where my gambling addiction, I reckon, started, if I trace my roots back to when I started gambling. We should also, and this is something I'll make a separate video on because I think it's very important, but I need to do a bit of research first. We also need to look at how in-game purchases, in-game loot crates, etc. are done in video games, with the FIFA team packs and loot boxes. And now we have a situation where virtual items have a real world value, and you are able to gamble on certain sites these virtual items against other people's items, and because these have a very liquid, very real value to people within these gaming communities, where's the line between just gambling something that's theoretically virtual or gambling actual money? The line is very, very thin, and it's very, very blurred, and I think it's going to cause a massive problem. But like I say, it's not, although I understand the principles of it, I haven't been a gamer in many years. I'm not completely up to date with it and up to date with the terminology and what games are what. So I'll do a bit of research before I come back and form an opinion and make a video on that. But my point is, there's no doubt that these are more instant, more damaging and more potentially addictive forms of gambling than the National Lottery. There's a reason that some gambling addicts, some recovering addicts, and I don't include myself in this because I've never really played the lottery, but they still feel it's okay to play the National Lottery because of the slow cycle and the relatively low risk, and also, to be fair, the relatively low chance of winning, but they don't see it as such a problem. So yes, it's a positive step in the right direction, but given the nature and the way that young people today are sort of conditioned to get that instant sort of feedback loop, I think there's plenty more to be done. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to get into trying to help more young people. I want to try and get myself in front of young people. I don't want to just tell them that gambling is bad, because when I was at school and at college and all the rest of it, everything was about how things are bad, drugs are bad, alcohol's bad, smoking's bad. And what happened? Well, I tried them all, didn't I? And most young people will. So I don't think it's about telling people not to gamble. It's about telling people the dangers of gambling, how to recognise problem gambling, and also to share my experiences and how low you can be as a result of a gambling addiction. So if anyone knows a way to get into this, to actually get myself in front of people. I don't know where to start, to be honest. I'm going to do some research, of course. I know the likes of Andy Margate now have gone off and done this, and actually are now talking to people face to face, which is brilliant. And he was one of my inspirations for actually starting to make these videos. But if anyone has any advice, drop us a message in the comments. Go onto Twitter, send me a DM at OnlyPhilOnline. I don't use Twitter a lot, so don't worry too much about following me. But if you have got any information or anything you can share, or if you work for a gambling charity or something like that that works with young people, then drop us a line, and I'd love to hear from you. But in the meantime, thank you so much for all your support. I'll probably won't be as long before I make another video, but keep yourself safe. Look after this build up to Christmas. However you're going to be spending it this year, take care of yourselves, please, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Thanks a lot for your help, guys.